What is up, everyone, and welcome to episode 47 of Pull Up with Miles and Owen. And today we have two iconic guests in the building. And I know I say this every week, I sound like a broken record, but I have to underscore that, since we created this podcast, we've had a running Google Doc of our dream guests. And you guys have been on it since the inception. So this is a big day for us. We're very, very excited. This dynamic duo are WNBA champions and hosts and creators of the Sid and TP show, not to mention two of the nicest, funniest hoopers in the entire world. Sydney Colson, Theresa Plaisance, welcome to the show. How's it going?
Hi, you guys. Thanks for having
Y'all.
us.
Yeah, thank you for having us.
We're very excited.
So hopefully we're gonna get into some unique and original questions here, but I'm gonna start with the most basic question that you guys have probably been asked thousands of times about first impressions of meeting one another. And was this like a Step Brothers moment that was like we're best friends immediately, or what was the origination of this beautiful friendship?
No
Yeah, I
one
think
really actually, speaking of originality, no one's actually described it like that, but it was kind of like that a little bit. Minus the bunk beds. We didn't have those, but next time, Sid, though. Next time we meet each other.
yeah, TP tells it better. What you showed up like a little late to
So, yeah,
yeah.
I was playing in Spain. I came in late to training camp. So I show up with 2 days left in training camp, and everything's coming down to the wire. And I meet Sid, obviously not a stranger to anyone. She comes right up to me. We immediately go lift and grab hit some weights, do some cold tub stuff, and we just spent the rest of the day just hanging out, grabbing. We had a full schedule. After that, we met at 3 o'clock, and the whole day was scheduled through 10 p.m. of just things to do. So it was fun immediately, and there was just an instant family connection. It almost felt like we were kind of raised together. But her parents aren't my parents, so that couldn't have been the case.
Yeah, it was just immediate, I don't know. I think we both just had the same humor right off the top. We're both in a position we're sharing what our stories have been like throughout the league a little bit, and we were watching. I don't know. I think the playoffs were going on at that time, maybe
Yeah.
something in the NBA. So it was yeah, we could just tell that we were gonna hit it off. Uh, if I stayed around long enough to be on the team. We had a little scare. We won't go into detail about that, but
It was a big scare.
I ended up making it, and yeah, it was me and TP at first, and then once Kia got there, we were like inseparable the entire season. The nerd herd.
I love that so much. We've seen this chemistry obviously on the court. We talked about the show a little bit. We're going to talk about the show some more, but also you guys have a podcast coming out. So I just want to give you room on our podcast to promote yours, which feels like it should not be what we're doing. That's you're kind of the competition now. But what is this pod that you guys have coming out?
So yeah, we're still shopping around to figure out what we're gonna do with that. But TP and I, like she says, we shouldn't have a word count on anything. And on our show, we had to stick to a script pretty much, or at least on the sketches, on the written sketches. But everything else was improv, but it was still you got to keep the episode within X amount of minutes. And so we just needed more time. And we need time to really be ourselves. And I think to talk about, more topics that we want to talk about. I think people just see us as goofy, which we are. Don't get me wrong. We're very silly. We are very unserious people, but when we get to talking about something with a level of seriousness, I think people will be surprised what we have to say, I think, and we'll be able to, just critique things with our humor, of course. And yeah, just tell people more things that we care about in life, more things that we find interesting outside of basketball. I think it'll be just a good time. People will see two friends just hanging out and be interested in the combo.
I also think that when it came to the Sid and TP show, no one really knew what to expect, and I think that's a really good mentality to come into the podcast with is don't have your heart set on something because we're about to hit you with a lot, and we also want to use this as a way to elevate the way that you should go about thinking and the way that we think, and I'm diagnosed ADD. Sydney's undiagnosed ADD. So like there's just like a lot of thoughts that compile and create this like snowball effect. So if you can sit through and understand the way that we can think through certain situations, everything from politics to food, we might have something for you there.
Yeah.
I can't wait for this. So we're going to get into some of the more serious stuff as we move along, but I did want to start kind of on the comedy end. I'm so fascinated by process, and you kind of got into a little bit of what my next question was going to be. But what's the back and forth with you guys when it comes to the origination of some of your ideas, whether it was for the show, which you mentioned was maybe limiting in terms of it being only 30 minutes, it being scripted, and what excites you about this new venture where you do get to, be more off the cuff, be more natural? How do ideas come to you, and how do you kind of put those, to paper or just rattle them off one another?
Honestly, I think that with the gift that God gave us of ADD, our ideas just like randomly pop into our heads. Now, with that being said, there's a lot of times that Sydney and I are sitting in a room with tons of people and we're just going back and forth and like growing the conversation. So if we're like unicorns are real, unicorns aren't real, we're like, okay, well, are dragons, fire breathing dragons real? We just like keep going into it. And people have used our like just everyday conversation on the random Wednesday at 1:00 midday to say like, I just sat and watched a podcast. We were like, maybe we could turn this into something. And we just like to talk, I think. And we like to really just like understand where other people are coming from. And if you can try to like understand where somebody's coming from in their place in life, and then we add where we come from with our crazy ideas and crazy thoughts, and I think it would make a really interesting show, Sid.
People are just always like, like y'all don't get tired of talking. And, we would like be alone later. Like if this was after like a road trip or something, like we might get back at like 1 a.m. and we're like, you want to play Pirates? Like this game Pirateer that we play, this board game, and it would be like me, TP, maybe Kia sometimes if she wants to come. And we would be like, actually, like I didn't get tired of talking. Like I had way more to say, but everybody was like, you could sense they were kind of getting annoyed, they're tired. So like I'm gonna stop. But I had more. And like I could have gotten goofier, but I was just sparing y'all. So I think her and I are on that same wavelength that like it's rarely too much in our eyes. Like it takes a lot for us to get to that point. And so we're just like constantly like sharing reels or sharing videos on TikTok, or we have like a running note where we're just like building on a joke or adding what we think is funny, or if this had gone this way, this would have been funny. Like it's just endless.
There was also an incident this summer where we drove from Vegas to LA and back. And we had like playlists ready and stuff like that. I don't even know if we got to the playlist. We were just like talking the whole time and the whole way back, just the two of us. And like we've spent countless hours together. Yeah, there wasn't a dry moment on that ride, but that's just the levels of conversation that Sid and I can get to with, the gifts of ADD.
So I've been lucky enough to ask Sid about this before, but I'm going to ask both of you, on this platform about some of your favorite comedic influences or just performers in general that either growing up or as you got older really inspired you in the world of acting, in the world of film, whatever it might be.
So do you want to go first?
No, you can.
I feel like I have a ton. I had a really, in my opinion, obviously, really great taste in like movies and TV shows as a kid. And I'm also the oldest of like all my cousins. So I was number one. And that takes like a lot of like, criticisms about like when the younger ones don't act right. Sid, about that, and the older ones get in trouble. So you have to like shake that off with comedy a lot of the time. But I used to watch shows That's So Raven and like The Emperor's New Groove, and like as we got older, we started tapping into like Blades of Glory and Dodgeball and House Bunny and like Bad Boys, like all these different types of comedy I found amusing as like a 9-year-old. And it's kind of funny that you just pick up on things as a kid. You find it funny and just keep growing with it now I'm 32, still loving these exact same movies to this day. But I think a lot of my influence came from really like That's So Raven, The Emperor's New Groove, like from a very young age.
I think mine was like, I didn't realize it probably, but I would just try to watch TV with my mom, like watch the sitcoms that she found funny. But I was young, I didn't understand sarcasm for real. And so when I would watch like Frasier with her or like Will and Grace, like I'm just laughing when she's laughing or when the track, they have like the audience laughing. But I don't know what is actually funny. But then once I got older and was watching that stuff, I was like, okay, I get it. And I would also watch, like when I was younger on BET, they had a show called Comic View, which I think they're bringing back. And like they used to have several comedians on there that like some jokes I would get, some wouldn't, but there are some people that just like stuck in my mind. This guy, Benji Brown, had a joke on there that was like, it was built to the level of like how TP and I view a joke now, or like how we build a joke and just taking it one level further. And so I always still watch that stand-up set by him. And then I would listen to Ricky Smiley's, like, he had this prank show and him and Roy Wood Jr., like they would have prank calls in the morning and I would listen to those. I used to love doing prank calls with my brother and sister and our cousins. Now you can't really do a prank call. Like it was better on like a landline. People didn't know, they didn't have caller ID. Like, so those are like, I think my influences, a lot of like Comic View and then like TV shows, Martin, Living Single, that kind of stuff growing up.
I remember those the prank calls like on the radio that were just I would just cringe as I was listening to them and they would go on like way too long. But Roy
Yeah.
Jr. has a great show on now, like that CNN show that he's doing now with the panel. He's just so funny.
So funny. And like what I love about it, I think like people don't realize like a lot of times like you have to be really smart to cover, like to be funny in a certain way. And so some comedians I just like really admire because you could tell they're like highly intelligent and speak about things in a way that's like, it makes you look at the world a little differently or see maybe a perspective that you didn't see. And that's what TP and I like to try to do when we're not being like overly goofy.
I love that. I love that so much. And the running thread of season one of your show was this idea that you guys were on a journey to become the faces of the league. And that's really resonated in the women's basketball space. So when you think about how you're approaching the sport differently, and I think so much of that comes through from that comedy, but also just how you guys can poke fun at yourselves or at the league or at how the world views women's basketball and kind of turn that on its head. How has all of that's come out of that from the show, from being the face of the league, how did the response meet or just even exceed your expectations?
I mean, I when I was convinced to do the show, it was a long process of me like I guess not understanding that it was a TV show. And once I realized that it was a TV show, I was like, okay, I'll do it. But my comedy was really for like locker room, close circles. So I was like, all right, well, I guess I'm gonna have to put myself out there and like be funny for the world. So like doing the show, it was really interesting because I didn't have any expectations whatsoever because I didn't know that it was a show. I thought we were doing like TikToks and reels at best. And then when I found out it was a show, I was like, okay, well, I guess we're gonna do it. But I didn't know like what the show was gonna look like. Everyone was like, is it on YouTube? Like, oh, that's cute. You're gonna do a YouTube show? And I was like, no, but we're trying to get there. Like, we're trying to make it to YouTube. Right now, we're on Fubo and Tubi and all these other really great platforms, but not YouTube yet. So I was like, okay, what's going on? And then once the traction hit and people were really trying to catch it live, because if you didn't catch it live and you didn't have Fubo, you weren't watching it. So then everyone's trying to catch it live. And I was like, this is kind of crazy that we're like picking up this kind of traction. Little old me and little old Sid coming out here making a TV show and making a splash in the society of comedy. And, you know, it was really, really something special, but I literally had no expectations. So this was absolutely mind blowing.
I think for me, I was like, once we had our call with our director, Carly, I need to, it's Houston, but Carly, I need to ask her something.
Yeah, we need to get a phonics spelling of
Comedic plug. When Carly pitched to us on the call, because they were trying to figure out if Carly was who they were going to go with to be the director and showrunner, and Carly took pretty much all the ideas that TP and I had, or like some of them that we had like this long list of like funny things that we wanted to do, and Carly took them and came up with the log line like that we all know now, like two WNBA bench warmers, striving to become the face of the league despite the fact that nobody asked them to. And as soon as Carly said that to us, immediately hilarious, because I think TP and I are two like self-deprecating people because like you just need it. Like you don't have to be overly self-deprecating, but you need to be able to play about whatever your situation is. Like we know that we're capable WNBA players. We know what we bring to a team, but it's not the end of the world if people don't see us as basketball stars. Like we don't care that deeply. And so it's fun for us to show that, like, it was fun for us to hear, like, yeah, you can be self-deprecating, but also I can see how this is going to turn into something. Like the big joke for me, the big haha for people that think that we're a joke in basketball is that we actually got big off of a joke that you don't think we're a big deal. And so for us, it was, for me, like immediately hearing it, we were like, I think, this is going to be something. And so that first day on set, like we were nervous. I think in like the first scene, if y'all have seen the show, when we were in the garage, lifting
weight room. Yeah.
The garage weight room scene, that was the very first episode that we both ever shot. And so I had been taking acting classes, but I had never done actual work on a set. And so this was my first time being on the set. This was the first for everything of TP, which was even more phenomenal that she was able to just kill it like that. But like, it was so rewarding, I think, just to see how everything panned out after that one initial call with Carly, like pitching it to us.
And Carly was also really hesitant to say, she was like, I want to let you know that I think the world of you two and that I'm a huge fan of your body work. With that being said, y'all are completely delusional and you're going to become the face of the league. We were like, perfect. Perfect. That's right up our alley.
She got it.
Yeah.
Last winter, I saw you guys. You came to New York. Our buddy Arden you were in conversation with our buddy Arden down here in Brooklyn. And I had jotted down, I was in the back of that room and jotting down on my phone this quote from you, TP, where you were talking about your relationship with the fans. And you said, the people who love us to death. And when I played for the Tulsa Shock, the fans, they were not there for the wins and losses. They're there for the people. It's a thankless job to be a WNBA fan. And I was thinking about that when you were talking about finding your show, those first runs where you had to be there live, and just how like WNBA Twitter was trying to crowdsource how to find FUBU or all those platforms. I'm forgetting the names of all of them. Now you guys are on YouTube. I was able to rewatch some of them on YouTube. That was much easier. But I remember at the time and just thinking about the collaborative nature of WNBA fandom. How have you experienced that as a player, that relationship between the sport and between the fans?
I think it really goes full circle because like fans make $0 supporting WNBA. If anything, they probably take an emotional toll from all the internet trolls. They have to like you guys, I'm sure you'll have your bros. You have to be like, yeah, bro, I'm going to check out the game today. And you're going to be like, what? You're going to see the Nets? And they're like, no, what? I'm going to go watch the Liberty play the Aces. And they're like, who's that? Then you have to explain amongst your bros how you like ball movement and how you're not there for the outfits and stuff like that. It's awkward. But also, this is the conversation that you're not saying like, oh, I'm going to go check out the Pelicans. And you're like, wait, what? The Pelicans? Why would you want to go see those guys? They're not even in skimpy shorts and like tight fitted tees. So like we all like we have a thankless profession of being women's athletes. Supporters of the W have a thankless job of being a fan of a thankless profession. So like everything goes full circle. And if anybody can say like we appreciate our fan base, it's definitely W players and women's athletes that we couldn't do what we do without the support of of our outsiders, of our fans that are like going to bat for us every single day and showing up for us and spending money to support. So I think it just all goes full circle, and like we just truly appreciate and have like ample gratitude for the people that showed up for us, and we're jumping through hoops, and maybe even like I don't know what's it called. Remember when we were kids, you used to get like a DVD, the blank DVD that was like a copy of somebody else's DVD. What's
Yeah,
that called?
Like the bootleg.
Bootleg. There was bootleg sit in TP. Sydney and I went to Kia's jersey retirement in Iowa, middle of nowhere, Iowa. Was my first time making it to Iowa. Beautiful place. We had a high, yeah, no, all right, Kia. Good job, Kia. There was a 15-year-old that walked up to us at the concession stand and said, "Hey, we saw your show on YouTube TV." In that moment, I really wanted to ask that 15-year-old how, because we've been told in all of our meetings that it wasn't on YouTube at this point. So like we are completely confused. Like, how is this kid watching this? Where'd they get the information from? But 15-year-old in Iowa knew where to go. Couldn't help it myself, but thanks to the fans out there, ultimately.
I will say, like, Miles and I are based in New York, and amongst the bro contingent, like it is turning. It is turning.
Yeah, bro.
The Nets are a punchline here. Like the W is the event, so it's been fun to watch that, if frustrating over the course of the years. But I wanted to go back to something you said a few minutes ago, Sid. It just building off of TP's answer there about like comedy as a way of talking about real issues and kind of viewing the world in like a different way. And I'm curious if the comedy that you guys have brought to this world in general and the world of women's basketball has facilitated any sort of like fun anecdotal interactions where you felt like, oh wow, we are really resonating with people like in a real way here.
I think the like so far, like with our show, there was really but so much to be said, like really about like the real world, because we were acting like ourselves in a plot line for a show. So it wasn't necessarily TP and I and our real world views, but like I think it's been really cool. I hope this answers the question. I think it's been really cool because the show has been done for over a year, but so many people make like TikTok edits, which shout out to those people, because the edits they make of the show sometimes where me and TP, they're so cool, they're so funny.
Yeah.
And it's just picked up traction. Like we'll see this stuff on Twitter now, just like a random, I'm just scrolling and I see me. I'm like, wait, when was I doing? And I'm like, oh, this is from the show. Somebody's just clipping it now because some people are just now able to watch it or like finding time to whatever, but it's like making its rounds again. And so, we have a group chat with me, TP, Gina, our agent, and like our director and some people from the show. And we'll just share the stuff and like how cool it is that people are enjoying this comedy. And like, I think that's the biggest thing for us. Even sometimes when we're not having a real message behind our comedy, we both just enjoy spreading joy and people laugh. So if we're doing something and somebody's saying like, I go to y'all's show to like brighten my day, like then that's wonderful for us.
That's so great. I want to bring it back to hoops real quick and talk about AU. Talk about AU a little bit, because you guys are both members of the Players Executive Committee, and you have both spent time overseas in your career. So, Sid, you talked at the top of this about how there's a balance between seeing you in this funny light, but also in this more serious light. And I feel like for me, the first time I saw that side of you was at one of the Zoom pressers early on in AU, where you were talking about some of the polls and how important it was to have those stateside opportunities. And you were an early ambassador, and from everything I've heard, you've been a recruiter, a solid recruiter for AU throughout the years, including, I'm guessing, TP. I would guess, because you were year 2 and 3, and now 4, you're on the committee again. What were those early conversations like for you, Sydney, about Athletes Unlimited, and now as you get ready to move to Nashville for season 4?
Well, it was actually it was brought AU was brought to me by Natasha Cloud, and at the time they just had their other three sports, so it was softball, volleyball, and lacrosse, and they were looking to have another sport added, and so Tosh got like it was like me, I think I think it was Kalia, who else was on there? Rachel, Banham. Like there were a few of us on that call just trying to hear what it was about because maybe we weren't planning to go overseas or whatever the reason was, we were going to be available and they were, if we were going to start it, we were trying to see who would want to be on the player executive committee to do like to meet weekly, to help with recruiting, to give ideas about what this league should look like, what to expect from the players because John and Jonathan, like our co-founders, like they're going into it kind of blind. Like they don't maybe necessarily know the W space, or they just trusted our knowledge more. So, yeah, from the onset, I knew that I wasn't going overseas anymore. I thought that my W career was also over because I gotten I was with Chicago in the bubble, and then I wasn't picked up by another team. So I was like, okay, well, basketball is done for me. Like I definitely just want to go out having some fun. I can still make some money, and this is a great opportunity for like my family to see me play stateside. So I was all in. Plus, it was in Vegas. I was like, yeah, cool, like free trip. So everything about it was just easy for me. But I also loved everything that they had attached to the league, and I knew that they had a proven model in their other three sports. So to me, it was very just like an easy decision. Like there's no risk for me at all. I'm just still playing basketball and adding these other fun elements. It's player led and player driven. We get to play for a cause that means something to us, and that cause, as we earn points over the course of the season, that cause is going to receive financial, like actually like something physical, not just support and like talking about it, but we're going to give you money. And so there are just a lot of things attached to it that made it very easy for me to want to be a part of it and to sell it. And yeah, TP and I, once we had our show, I was like, girl, come on, because we can do some fun stuff during the season to keep like getting to know one another, adding to our humor, hopefully do something there. And so that's something that will, also be taken to Nashville.
And so much of the model originates with what you said. It's like listen to the players, let the players dictate what a league should look like for professional basketball players.
Yeah.
And a lot of the conversations we've had, because we had a bunch of people come on through AU last year onto the pod, was that I think it was Tosh Cloud was maybe the first person to make this comp, but she said it felt like AAU growing up, where it's like you've got all your friends and family in the stands, and then you might be teammates next week, so you're rooting for each other. And there's this camaraderie that's still, there's the competition that's always going to inherently be there because to be a professional athlete, you have to be on that like 1% level in terms of competitiveness, but also like somebody hits the floor after a hard foul and there are like 10 hands going to reach down and pick that person up because everybody, there's genuine care and love that you're seeing because you're sharing this communal space. What was, how has that evolution kind of grown throughout the 4 years in terms of how you feel in terms of the setting? And I know like you're moving on to your third city now, and now you're bringing in a bunch of people that have ties to Tennessee, which is awesome too, including Alicia was the big announcement last week. But in terms of just the growth of AU.
Well, I mean, for me, since season one, it's been really cool to see. Like, I think it was nice to be in Dallas in back-to-back seasons to see how it grew and how more people were interested. And I think there was a clear like surge in attendance from year 2 to year 3. And yeah, like you said, we always keep like the competitive basketball at the forefront because that's the most important thing. Like that's what the fans are gonna pay money to get tickets for. That's what people are gonna want to watch on TV or on the WNBA app for. And so that is the most like important part. But I think it's the other things too, because like after the game, like if you played in game one, then like the players are out there sitting in the stands amongst the fans. Like that's not something that you typically have or see, and I think that's really cool for the fans to experience at AU because then they just get to walk up, take pictures. Sometimes there are reporters there, like young journalists who are wanting to, start off their W or like women's basketball reporting career, and they're getting to just ask us questions on the side. You're also getting to see like how interested the fans are in the leaderboard model. Like it's just a very like close knit environment, and I think not only in AU but in the W too. Like that's just what makes women's basketball really special, because we understand that like everybody doesn't love and respect women's basketball, but the people who are there, they genuinely do. And so we want to show that love and appreciation back to them. And I think AU is just such a small like environment usually that we're able to do that to the degree there. So yeah, I really appreciate it for that.
You talk about the fans getting into the format. One of my favorite moments was standing next to, it was Dejanay was explaining, it might have been to Nalissa, this was year two, what the rules were when Nalissa wasn't sure who she should root for in the fourth quarter of a game because she had to figure out like how the leaderboard was going to shift. And that was just kind of like her first couple of games in. So there is a little bit of a kind of feeling out process with the scoring. But
Yeah.
TP, how did that feel for you compared to other kinds of organized hoops?
So like AU, Sydney did a great job recruiting me. I did I go overseas for a little bit? I was like planning on going overseas for a little bit, and then whatever happened, and the TV show was in talks, so I decided to show up to AU. Another situation, didn't know what to expect. Once I got there, and I trust Sydney, I guess, on a lot of stuff. I need to like reevaluate my own life at this point. Okay. But once I got there, like you could feel um as a player that like you were cared for specifically. And then whatever story that you were bringing to the table, because you also get to pick your charity of choice. So like everybody is showing up for themselves, but also something a little bit bigger than them when it comes to picking your charity and someone that you want to like share this your winnings with, someone that you're working really hard to, support in the same way. And to hear everybody else's why was extremely valuable for me, because I never, when you look at your opponents, you don't really like understand their why. You're just like, we're gonna beat them, we're gonna beat them. There's another level to it once you know like people are playing for like a friend that passed away, and they opened up this organization for them, or like for kids that are in the hospital that just need a game when they can't leave, and like funding, bringing games to the hospital for these kids, like all these little stories, like all these charities that like I've never even heard of before, or like thought that you could support in this kind of way. Just hearing everybody's why was just so important, and it made the experience so much better, because at the end of the day, you're competing, you want to win, like you don't lose that competitive edge knowing a little bit more, but you can also be a little bit happier for people in situations when you do lose, that like that this person is here for this reason. You can be happy for them in those moments, and like the next week you're like, I need to pick her, she like really did well this week. So it goes full circle, and I think that AU is such a really amazing organization, because a lot of the times in sport, like you have a lot of business people that know how to run business, but business and sport don't always agree. So AU marries like understanding what it's like from an athlete's perspective, and understanding what needs to go into sport to make the player side enjoyable, and also make it a functional business and a money making business. And sometimes those things don't go hand in hand, but us having these meetings every week and us being in conversations with these really incredible people that put together AU and want to see this thing grow. It's been, I guess for me to be on the PEC for 1 year, some of these conversations are conversations I've never been a part of, because I've never been in not even near a corporate space, but this is probably the closest thing I can. So it also gives opportunity for those who, obviously when we stop playing as women's basketball players, we don't just like fall back on our hundreds of $1,000,000 we made throughout our career, and like we can just like relax for years and like people will take care of us. No, we're going to pick up another job, and we're going to get directly to work immediately. And I think that like being in a part of something like this gives you some experience in that world. So it's really nice to have that.
I appreciate that answer so much. And I feel like it's important for us to hear on this side of the question answer format sometimes how much like people just appreciate being able to talk about their own why. And like we, can talk about pick and rolls and like construct all these multifaceted questions. And sometimes it's as simple as just hearing what someone is about. So I appreciate that so much. Um,
So, okay, before you're about to ask a question, let me ask y'all a question. So, why do y'all continue to cover? Why did y'all when the
Yeah,
W
good question.
wasn't when it wasn't popular? What made you keep coming back? Like, I want to ask more journalists this, especially the ones that have been around for a long time.
Sure,
I
sure. Yeah, go ahead, Owen. You go first.
I think for me it was the frustration with like being a fan of women's sports and just being like, why isn't like obviously I know the systemic factors that go into, why women's sports has had to fight this unfair uphill battle. But I think it was like this is just so awesome and so cool. And so many people don't know Jackie Young's story or Sydney Colson's story or whatever it might be. And so I think that just really excited me having worked on the men's sports side of things, but being a fan of women's sports, I was just like, this is very frustrating that there are a bazillion stories to tell out here. And this is like a passion of mine, and it would be a natural way to spread it.
Yeah, I never really, um, I never covered men's sports. And when I started watching the W, it was as simple as I found out at the time League Pass was like $17 or something like that.
Yeah, what
As
a
I
bargain.
like basketball and I like supporting women, and I started watching the games, and the league was just so digestible. Like because it was a dozen teams, a dozen players per team. It wasn't these like 30 different rosters that you had to try to figure out. And I was like, oh, just from watching Sports Center over the years, I knew players on basically every team already. And I started going to games, and it was just really welcoming in a way. I'm like, oh, so you can have all of the fun competitive elements of sports without it being toxic all the time, without there being fights in the parking lot, and with families being there, and with just representation in a way that you don't really get. I don't have to like go home and be afraid to Google a player on a team because I'm afraid of what's gonna like pop up in the search history when you find out what they've done before they've gotten to that stage. And then like saw a posting at the time where somebody had said we're going to try to add some WNBA coverage. And I had actually just gone to, this was 2018 or 2019, I had just gone to a Liberty Aces game in Westchester, which doing that drive was not very fun. Let
Well,
alone, yeah,
Westchester, how special. That was a special
Westchester.
gym.
There,
That was yeah, that was the drive wasn't fun. I can't imagine playing there was very fun. But yeah, I responded to it and I wrote like a recap, and it just kind of grew from there. And I had just finished up an MFA program at the time. So my background's in writing, not even in journalism. And I kind of came at it from that storytelling perspective. And there was just so much missing when I was trying to learn about players that I wanted to have those conversations. And it just felt like men's sports are oversaturated to a point where if I want to find out the top favorite cereals of a baseball player, I can probably do that. But I can't find out like a Wikipedia page on a third of the WNBA. So it just felt like a space that I could go into, and also it aligns with everything that I kind of feel politically, and I really that resonated with me as well. And there are so many Black women, there are so many queer women that are in this space that I feel like are not getting the shine that they should. So to be able to use a tiny Twitter platform to kind of amplify that felt just like it was a lot better use of my time than getting angry over, the Jets losing for the 10th time in a row.
well, we
They're still
appreciate.
rebuilding though. Hang in there.
I'm sorry, Owen. I know I interrupted y'all's question, but yeah, thank y'all for what y'all do. Like,
Absolutely.
I'm gonna try to make it
Thank
a
you.
point to start asking more journalists why, and just saying like we appreciate the work
That's
that
a
y'all
good
do.
question, Sid.
No, I appreciate that too. And like being able to talk with you, Sid, during the semifinals, like I appreciated the conversational nature of that
Too.
conversation. Like that meant a lot. So I appreciate the flip on it.
Yeah.
So as we get to our final couple questions here, I would be remiss if I didn't bring up game 4 of the 2023 finals. I just have to do it. I'm sorry. But it's been a common theme about how self-deprecating you guys are. And I think everyone admires that so greatly, such a wonderful quality. And you have even been very self-deprecating about that game in terms of like 2 points, 5 fouls, whatever. But I just need to give you the platform to like talk your shit for a minute because anyone who knows ball knows that your plus 17 was like one of the most influential presences in one of the biggest basketball games of my lifetime. Not to mention the iconic behind the back pass. So like what sticks out in reflecting upon that? And just the floor is yours here.
I'm crying. No, man, that was like a really fun. Probably that season was probably one of the seasons where like I played the most or played the most like significant minutes sometimes in games. Probably after this season that just happened, but that was such a it was just such a like not heavy season, but there was like a lot on the line. Like we were going to be the first team to go back to back in 20 plus years, I think it was. And so, we know naturally when Chelsea and Kia went down, I think probably even amongst our coaching staff a little, there might have been some, like there was probably a second of doubt. Yeah, like maybe you got to work right after, but you had to be nervous for a second, like, oh shit, we just lost 2 of our starters.
Right.
Like, come on now. Now I know for the fans, like it's just tense. Like you're not thinking that you're about to win that game. But I promise, like I told my girlfriend, like the day after, I was like, I have been feeling like just in my spirit, something is gonna happen where some people on the team are gonna have to step up and do something. And we hadn't played a ton of minutes throughout the course of the season, and especially like some lineups. And so it was gonna get interesting real fast. But I just had this belief, like before, it's weird. I don't even know what to say, but it was before Chelsea and Kia even got hurt. I was just like, more people are gonna have to be ready. Like we're at the end, they might be tired, whatever will happen. And then so I'm just one of those people that's like, I'm a stay ready so I don't have to get ready. And I'm a cheer for my team and be hype on the sideline. Like TP knows how we were during the 2022 season. Like, yeah, we might not play a ton of minutes, but like we're gonna big y'all up. We're gonna tell you what we see from the other team. If we've played that girl a lot of times before, I'm gonna tell you her weaknesses, how to guard her. I'm gonna just contribute how I can. So it was just, I think, a very rewarding moment to finally be able to be out there. And of course, people were gonna talk their shit. Like, you only had 2 points, stop talking. I don't give a damn about scoring. I never have, for real. Like, I take it very seriously to go out there and lock somebody up. Like, that's what I want to do. And I want to make some passes along the way and just make stuff easier for the stars of the team. That's it. That's it. Call me crazy, but like, I want to win. I could care less how much I contribute to the win. So I think that season, it just felt really good for us to do it, especially on their court. Yeah, and I mean, we dropped the ball this year, but that's gonna go down as like probably one of my most favorite games and seasons in my career.
Also, to piggyback up on what Sid said, like accidents don't happen. Being on the 2022 team with Sid and also seeing the way that Sid prepares every single day, it was only a matter of time before Sid got to shine. Like there was something that she put in the works every single day. There's a reason that she's on the team every single day and making the people around her better. Sid's one of the most selfless players that you can probably be around because she puts everybody above herself, both like mentally, physically, and like she said, she'll do anything to win. And whether that's sitting the bench all season long, but being the biggest supporter to everybody, or being ready in game 4 with 2 starters down, Sid gives 100% every time. And I think that that's just like one like small time that we got to see Sid's body of work of all these years and the prep that she's done since she was a kid, like on a big stage. And I think that just this one small thing is, who Sid is every single day is like very, to our small circle and to our teammates, very appreciated. But obviously my mom also takes offense to all the people coming at Sid. My mom is always concerned. Why won't they just leave her alone? I don't know, Mom. We don't know. So my mom's very defensive about Sid as well, but Sid is underappreciated in the scopes of the world, but very appreciated in terms of how her teammates view her and her friends view her and the body of work that she just does by herself.
Oh, thank you, friend.
Yeah, I mean we're in the same camp as your mom, TP. We're also very defensive of Sid.
I'm like, there's such thing as a good foul. Don't you know? Like, fouls are positive. Like, this was great defense. Come on.
Plus 17.
Yeah, plus 17.
I'm crying. Thank you. Thank you.
So we've gotta let you guys go, but I just have one more because in one of the episodes of the Sid and TP show, you guys have all those fun facts as you start each episode, and one quoted you, TP, as an avid Game Show Network viewer. And as someone who I grew up with my grandparents, so I could relate to this. Every dinner was like watching Match Game 84 or something like that.
Yeah.
So to close us out, for both of you, if you were putting together a Family Feud team, which three WNBA players would join you?
So we've talked about making a team, but it's with I always want to throw my grandma in there because I feel like you need just like different types of people in different areas of their life. And I'm like, my grandma will bring an answer that I could never come up with in a million years. With that being said, if we're doing WNBA, we got to go with the oldies. So,
Thanks, though.
okay. So obviously Sid and I are on the team, so we need three more.
Mm-hmm.
Two more, right?
Or there's
No,
no,
three
there's
more.
five.
Five total. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, Kia's got to be in there. Kia was in these conversations initially.
Yeah, Kia knows a lot. Our nerd herd was like our trivia group at our apartment complex. Now, granted, we didn't win a lot because one of the guys there used to be on Jeopardy, so it was like this isn't even fair. Like,
but one time we did beat him, and everyone was like, "You guys beat the Jeopardy guy," and we're like, "What?"
Wait, now I need to know what your trivia name is.
Nerd
Did you
herd.
have like a group name? Just Nerd Herd? Okay.
Kia made us jerseys as well.
Oh, I love that.
She has the best handwriting.
We'll send you a picture.
Yeah, it's great.
Okay, so it's me, you, Kia. We're like only choosing our team.
Yeah, I'm like, who else do we? Okay, let's think outside the box. Nobody. Oh, that's unfair because
I honestly will probably add like Alicia and Chelsea.
I was thinking Chelsea, and like Alicia is well traveled and worldly as well.
Throughout the league, I'm trying to see who throughout the league.
Rachel Banham and Kia Nurse are up there because they're like very out the box thinkers.
I'm gonna just stick with the Aces though. So.
All right, so
if everybody
Aces team,
yeah, I'm like Aces versus everybody.
No, I love that. Because if all 12W teams had their squads put together, you guys are confident you already had a working trivia group put in there.
Oh my God.
We were putting in work. We also got trampled a lot on trivia nights.
Hey, enough. No, don't.
But also, Sydney showed up like halfway through and was like, "Sorry, my alarm didn't go off through my nap." Me and Kia were like in there by ourselves trying to fend for ourselves against Jeopardy guy. And Sydney just like stumbles in, looks great by the way too. We're like, "Did you like shower after you woke up? Like, did you get fully dressed for this moment?" And we're like in the grind, pulling on our hair, trying to figure out these trivia questions. And Sydney's just,
well, I had to brush my teeth.
pardon me.
She was giving herself the same speech as she did before Game 4 of the 2023 finals before that trivia.
Having a great time. I'm like, no way. The place looks like this.
Sorry about that. I don't think I ever said sorry, but my bad.
No, you didn't.
Thank you guys so much. This was incredible. This was everything that we had hoped it was. Oh, hi. This is everything it was going to be. Yes. We're so excited to watch you guys hoop in a couple of months. I am very excited to get out of New York in February and get over to Nashville. It should be at least a little bit warmer.
Yeah, man. We'll go something to eat. Yeah.
I'll see you out there. Yeah, we'll get some food out there. The best fried chicken I ever had in my life was in Tennessee. So I have to get back to Gus's Fried Chicken. That's the spot.
Oh, okay.
They are not a sponsor of the pod, but they should be.
Shout out to Gus's.
But thank you guys so much. We are going to look out for the podcast when that comes. Hopefully, we're going to see a season 2 of the show. We're going to root for that too. But anything else you guys want to plug on the way out?
No. Not me. Thank y'all for what y'all do. Keep
Thank you
covering.
guys.
We appreciate it.
Truly, truly.
Thank you
Thank
guys so much.